It's not as if I know all the details. It was a contract negotiation that was going on. ESPN certainly did not want to lose her. But in the end, rather, she made a decision to walk away from the show effective immediately. As you see from her Instagram post, her Instagram story, to be blunt, it came as a shock. I was not aware that this is something that she was contemplating doing. But in the end, she made her decision. And we have to move on as a show. I don't like it. I'm not happy about it. Because I appreciate her and what she has meant to me, what she has meant to the show, what she has meant to the network, what she's meant to the business.
Molly Qerim was the face of one of ESPN's most watched shows, First Take, where every second is recorded, dissected, and broadcast to millions. But sometimes even the most seasoned pros slip up and forget that the cameras never stop rolling. From mouthing WTF after an awkward on-air compliment to breaking into spontaneous dance right beside her co-hosts, Molly has had her fair share of viral live TV moments. Here are 10 times Molly Qerim completely forgot she was live on ESPN. The first moment, Molly Qerim mouths WTF on First Take.
Mina Kimes is making nearly $2 million for cluttering up a football show. When Stephen A sits atop and you're paying him $20 million, it just raises everyone else's expectations and frustrations. So those are my two initial thoughts on why it's over so abruptly and so quickly for Molly Qerim.
It was January 3rd, 2024, a normal day on First Take, packed with heated takes, bold predictions, and the thunderous voice of Stephen A. Smith dominating the studio. Alongside him were analysts Dan Orlovsky and Mina Kimes, each tossing in their usual fiery opinions as the debate rolled on. Everything was going as planned until Stephen A. shifted gears. In the middle of his passionate monologue about growth and evolution in the media industry, Stephen A. suddenly turned his attention directly to his co-host, Molly. What started as an empowering commentary quickly took an unexpected turn. Smith began praising Molly for her transformation, from being seen as just another sports host to becoming a full-blown media personality with her own influence and star power.
Miss Molly Qerim, longtime host for ESPN's First Take, my day job, where she has been the last 10 years. Last night, she abruptly resigned as the host of the show. And to say that I'm quite sad about it is an understatement.
But as Stephen delivered this compliment, the camera stayed on him, and sharp-eyed viewers caught something wild happening in the background. Molly's lips subtly formed the words WTF, clearly thrown off by the sudden shift in tone. It was quick, almost imperceptible, but the internet noticed instantly. There she was, Molly Qerim, completely unaware that she was about to go viral again. Even though the camera wasn't supposed to be focused on her, her reaction was captured in crystal clarity. As Stephen A. continued his passionate monologue about her transformation into a supermodel in the public's eyes, Molly's response said it all. Her lips clearly formed 3 unmistakable words. What the F? There was no mic on her at the time, but she didn't need one. Her expression was loud enough. Raised eyebrows, a sharp head tilt, and that mix of shock and disbelief created a moment that spoke volumes without a single sound.
I think we'll start with Molly Qerim. She, yesterday when we talked, we knew that she was leaving, but we didn't know she was leaving like immediately, which is an indication that, man, this thing's a bit more complicated than just they couldn't settle on the money. It just seems more seriously. She's off the show now. ESPN put out a statement. Stephen A. Smith had something to say.
Fans immediately caught it, and within minutes, the clip exploded across social media. On X, formerly Twitter, and Reddit, users broke it down frame by frame like detectives at work. One fan called it the highlight of First Take that day. Another said it was the most real thing ever seen on ESPN. Major outlets jumped in too. The New York Post, Outkick, and other media platforms analyzed the moment in detail, pointing out how these raw, unscripted reactions make the highly polished First Take feel more human and unpredictable. It was one of those flashes of authenticity that no producer could ever plan, and fans loved every second of it. But if Molly mouthing a profanity caught your attention, wait until you see what came next. A moment where she didn't just react, she moved. Flashback to June 2019, when First Take was still in its Max Kellerman era. The trio, the Stephen A., Max, and Molly, had built a rhythm, bouncing between fiery sports debates and random pop culture moments that always seemed to take over the show. On that particular day, the discussion veered into something lighthearted, a viral athlete celebration, or one of those trending dance challenges taking over social media. And that's when Molly made her move, literally. Instead of just talking about it, she jumped out from behind her moderator's desk and gave her own version of the dance. It was spontaneous, playful, and absolutely unexpected.
When the first job is made so easy because you're working with somebody that makes it easy for you. And that's what she did for me personally. And so because of that, I just wanted to wish her the best, let her know the love is always here from myself, from my personal assistant and my right hand, Sumatra, my security, Juvie, and my sister Carmen, and so many people that have loved her and loved on her over the years. We've got nothing but love for her.
She hit a quick shimmy, threw in a little twerk-like motion, and the studio instantly erupted in laughter. The performance lasted only a few seconds, but it completely flipped the studio's mood. The studio's reaction was instant chaos. Stephen A. Smith broke into loud applause while Max Kellerman pretended to be a dance judge, giving Molly's quick routine a mock critique. The energy was light, everyone was laughing, and it felt like one of those genuine TV moments that happened completely by accident. But once the cameras stopped rolling, the internet took over. Within hours, the clip spread like wildfire across every major platform. TikTok, X, Reddit, you name it. Views shot up fast with comment sections exploding into debate. Some fans were all in, cheering her on with comments like, "Molly's got moves," and "Finally, someone fun on ESPN." But others weren't so kind. Critics slammed the dance as unprofessional and accused her of forgetting that she was still live on air. This moment revealed something deeper. The double standard Molly faces as one of the few high-profile women in sports media.
But just imagine all this time, and you're in that position. And then you get to the position where you're in another contract negotiation. You're not hearing what you want to hear. You're not hearing it not only in the money, but in also they're talking funny in terms of giving you greater role. And you're like, it's time to move on. Imagine you're in that moment. What will make you, a report comes out after you do a Monday show, not show up for work on Tuesday?
When Stephen A. gets animated, yells, or stands up mid-segment, it's celebrated as authentic passion. But when Molly lightens the mood with a few seconds of dancing, the conversation suddenly shifts to professionalism. That contrast spoke volumes. It showed how women on live sports TV walk a much tighter line between personality and perception. Still, Molly handled it with the same calm confidence she always does. She laughed it off, kept the show moving, and reminded everyone that First Take is meant to be entertaining. But that wasn't the last time she pushed the boundaries of what's considered morning show appropriate, because not long after, she dropped a joke that left everyone in the studio frozen for a split second. And it all had to do with feet. Fast forward to August 15th, 2024. The First Take crew was deep into another wild mix of sports and pop culture. The topic? A viral NFL story involving a player's bizarre social media activity, reportedly centered around feet. That's right, a full-on foot fetish headline somehow made its way onto the ESPN set. Now, this kind of subject is dangerous territory for live television, especially for a morning show on a family-friendly network like ESPN. One wrong word, and it's instant headline material. According to reports, Molly Qerim playfully asked why so many athletes seem to have such an unusual fascination with feet, jokingly adding, "Is this like a locker room thing now?" It was clearly meant as harmless humor, but the reaction in the studio told a whole different story.
Because we talked about the whole Molly Qerim situation in the morning. We're thinking, okay, it's going to play out, and there's going to be a grand farewell, celebration show, goodbye. And she just Dear John'd him. She said, out. I was like, wow. So obviously, this is pretty obvious. At least from Molly's point of view, I don't think it was the most amicable split.
Stephen A. Smith's face said it all. His eyes widened in disbelief before he blurted out an exaggerated, "Whoa!" The rest of the panel froze for a moment. Some laughed nervously, others stayed completely silent. That brief, awkward pause filled the air, the kind of tension only live television can create when something unexpectedly crosses the line. The camera then cut back to Molly, who went from laughing at her own joke to realizing instantly that maybe, just maybe, that one didn't land the way she intended. Her smile faded into that familiar, oh no expression. Part amusement, part regret. And of course, the internet pounced within minutes. X and Reddit lit up with reactions. Some users defended her with posts like Molly keeping it real as always, while others fired back with, did she forget she's on ESPN? It didn't take long for media outlets like The Sun to jump in, dissecting every second of the clip. They noted how her attempt to keep the segment upbeat and playful slightly backfired because of how sensitive the topic was. But even with all the mixed reactions, the moment once again showed how tricky Molly's position is, balancing entertainment, professionalism, and live spontaneity all at once. And while that foot joke had people talking, the next on-air moment proved just how quick-thinking and sharp Molly can be when things go wrong. Because this time, she wasn't the one making the mistake. She was covering for one.
I mean, you can play it out to the end of the year and move on to your next deal, but when you don't come in, it makes me think maybe Stephen A. is a part of her frustration.
Well, part of that clip of Stephen A. Smith yesterday that dealt with this subject, he went on this diatribe about how everyone has a boss, that everyone has someone that they have to be accountable for, and no one's ever completely free.
On April 8th, 2024, Molly Qerim found herself in the middle of a live first take segment that went sideways in seconds. Stephen A. Smith was deep in a heated rant, completely unaware that his open laptop, sitting right in front of him, had just become visible to the entire national audience. Now, for anyone who knows how live television works, that's a big problem. An open laptop can display anything: private production notes, personal messages, or even random browser tabs that should never make it on air. It's not just unprofessional, it's a potential PR nightmare. Molly spotted it instantly. Without saying a word, her eyes darted to the screen, and you could practically see her calculating how to fix it before millions of viewers noticed. While Stephen A. kept talking, totally oblivious, Molly began subtly shifting papers, angling her body, and trying to cover the screen from view. What came next was a masterclass in on-air crisis control. According to viewers who caught it live, Molly Qerim leaned slightly towards Stephen A. Smith, trying to signal him without breaking the flow of the show. She made a few subtle hand gestures, quietly mouthing the words, "close it," or "put it away." Her face showed that perfect mix of professionalism and urgency, the look of someone trying to stop a disaster before it happens. But Stephen A., completely locked into one of his trademark rants, didn't notice a thing. He was too deep in his argument to realize what was happening beside him. The result: Molly's brief flash of frustration was caught perfectly on camera. That tiny eye roll, that exhale, it said everything without her uttering a single word. Of course, fans noticed immediately. The clip hit X within minutes, with captions like "Molly's face said it all" and "Stephen A. left her hanging again." The video blew up overnight, becoming yet another viral first take moment. Media outlets like Awful Announcing even ran pieces about it, praising Molly's fast reaction and pointing out Stephen A.'s tunnel vision mid-rant. It was the perfect example of live TV chaos, unscripted, unpredictable, and unforgettable.
The obvious take is that whatever happened is it wasn't amicable. This is not them parting on good terms. I think you look at the way it was reported by Austin Karp at Sports Business Journal on Monday night, and it comes out that, you know, she's going to be done at the end of the year, which is pretty early, I would say, in these type of negotiations to make that sort of judgment when you're still 3 months out. But sometimes that happens. Sometimes both sides realize they're at the end, and they've reached kind of a stalemate, and they both decide to go their separate ways.
But if you think Molly's always the calm, diplomatic mediator, think again. Because in the very next viral moment, she didn't just keep the peace, she fired back. On March 20th, 2024, Molly Qerim shocked viewers by stepping completely out of her neutral moderator role and directly challenging Stephen A. Smith on air. With Bite, the segment was focused on NCAA March Madness storylines, where every coaching move is analyzed like it's life or death. Stephen A., in typical fashion, went off the rails. He declared that a coach's decision was the dumbest thing I've ever seen in basketball history. Now, anyone who's watched Stephen A. knows this is his trademark. He lives for dramatic statements. Everything is either the greatest thing ever or the worst thing imaginable. That's his brand, his rhythm. the performance that keeps viewers locked in. But on this day, Molly wasn't having it. She decided it was time to call him out. Right there, live, in front of millions. But on this particular day, Molly Qerim wasn't having it. Instead of keeping her cool and steering the show forward like she usually does, she jumped right in with fire. Steven, come on. You can't be serious with that. That's absurd. And you know it. Her tone was sharp, her patience clearly running thin. The way she said it wasn't just a casual disagreement. It carried that unmistakable frustration of someone who'd heard this kind of exaggeration one too many times. Her expression said even more. Raised brows, a subtle head shake, and that look of disbelief only Molly can pull off. The studio went silent for a moment, the kind of silence that makes everyone watching lean in closer. Stephen A., known for always having the last word, looked genuinely stunned. He didn't expect his own moderator to hit him with that kind of reality check live on air. What made this moment unforgettable was how it shattered the first take formula. Molly usually keeps the peace, balancing the chaos while the panelists debate. But here, she wasn't just moderating, and she was challenging. It felt raw, personal, and real, like she momentarily dropped the role of show host and spoke as a colleague who'd finally had enough of Steven's dramatics. Within minutes, the clip stormed social media. Fans on X flooded the timeline with reactions like, "Molly just checked Stephen A," and "She finally said what we're all thinking." The clip got picked up by Yahoo Sports, which analyzed it as more than just an argument. They suggested it hinted at real underlying tension between the two co-hosts that had been building for months. But the tension didn't stop there, because the next time these two clashed, it wasn't Molly calling Stephen out. It was Stephen cutting her off in the middle of her sentence. And the way she reacted? Priceless. On February 12th, 2024, First Take was deep into NBA trade deadline coverage, one of the most chaotic and exciting times of the basketball year. Teams were scrambling to make last-minute deals, rumors were flying, and emotions were running high on set. The panel included Stephen A. Smith and likely J.J. Redick or Kendrick Perkins, while Molly was doing what she does best, keeping things structured and clear for the audience. She was in the middle of setting up a segment, explaining a developing trade rumor involving a high-profile player. Her delivery was smooth, focused, and leading perfectly into her next question, when suddenly, Stephen A. cut her off. "Hold on, Molly. I gotta say this," he shouted, throwing his hand up before launching into a completely unrelated tangent about LeBron James' leadership style. The interruption was so abrupt it threw everyone off, and for a split second, Molly just froze. Blinking, stunned that he'd hijacked the segment that bluntly, Molly Qerim's reaction was immediate and brutal to watch. Her eyes widened in pure disbelief as Stephen A. bulldozed right through her sentence. She leaned back slightly, body language screaming, "Did that really just happen?" Then came the arm fold, that classic defensive move that said it all without a single word. But the moment that set social media ablaze was what she appeared to mouth right after. Fans later zoomed in and speculated she said either, "Are you serious?" or simply, "Wow." Either way, the camera caught it. An unfiltered flash of exasperation from someone who's used to keeping her composure no matter how chaotic things get. For a split second, viewers saw the real Molly, the one who'd had enough of being interrupted and overshadowed. The reaction online was instant and fierce. On X, users flooded the timeline with posts like, "Molly's face when Stephen A. cut her off was priceless," and "She deserves better than that disrespect." The clip racked up thousands of views in hours and quickly turned into another viral First Take moment. Even sports media couldn't ignore it. Bleacher Report ran a full piece dissecting the exchange, calling it a perfect example of how Stephen A.'s larger-than-life energy can sometimes overpower the show's balance, especially with Molly being the only female host holding her ground among strong male personalities. They noted how, despite the obvious tension, she stayed composed and finished the segment like a professional. Still, the optics were clear. I know this wasn't just about one interruption, it was about respect dynamics on a live television. But as frustrating as that moment was, it was nothing compared to what came next. Because just months later, Molly found herself caught in a storm that was way more intense. Not just one co-host coming for her, but two. Enter September 10th, 2024, a day that would go down as one of the most uncomfortable moments in First Take history. The topic? The Caitlin Clark controversy. The atmosphere? Tense from the very start. Stephen A. Smith and Shannon Sharpe were already fired up, but this time, the debate turned inward, right toward Molly. Instead of their usual back and forth, both men suddenly directed their frustration at her. As she tried to moderate the heated discussion, her comments were met with pushback, not once but twice, as Stephen and Shannon challenged her on air. It wasn't aggressive, but it was sharp, and the tone was enough to make the entire studio tighten up. The heated segment centered around WNBA sensation Caitlin Clark and the whirlwind of media attention surrounding her rise. For weeks, First Take had been caught in the middle of that storm, with Stephen A. Smith and Shannon Sharpe openly backing Clark's hype, while others argued that veteran WNBA players deserved more spotlight. The discussion that day wasn't just about basketball anymore, it was about bias, visibility, and who really gets celebrated in women's sports. Stephen and Shannon had been catching heavy backlash online for defending Clark's impact and pushing for her inclusion on Team USA. They believed she was not just a rising star, but a marketing powerhouse who could elevate the league. But as the conversation heated up, the energy in the studio began to shift, and all eyes turned to Molly. Molly, staying in her usual role as moderator, was trying to balance both sides of the argument. But Stephen A. wasn't letting it slide this time. His tone changed, sharper, frustrated, and clearly personal. Out of nowhere, he pivoted mid-sentence and looked directly at her. "Molly," he said, once, then again, louder. "Molly!" The repetition wasn't casual, and as it carried weight. The way he said her name wasn't just to get her attention, it was to make a point. The implication was clear as day. Stephen A. believed Molly herself had not fully backed the Caitlin Clark narrative when he and Shannon were getting blasted for it. He called out the backlash they'd faced and accused the show's overall stance of being too cautious. His frustration was obvious when he said, "They jumped on us as a show." But the subtext was clear. He felt abandoned, especially by Molly. Her expression told the story. A quick blink, a stunned half smile, and then that icy composure she's mastered over years of live television. She didn't interrupt, didn't fire back, but her silence was deafening. The camera caught her face for just a few seconds, but that was all it took. Fans saw the tension instantly. Social media erupted once again. On X, viewers dissected every frame. Stephen A. calling out Molly like that was wild. One post read, while another said, "You can feel the frustration. This isn't just TV, this is real tension." It wasn't long before sports media outlets joined in. Analysts noted that this exchange exposed the complicated power dynamic on First Take, where even the host, whose job is to moderate, can become part of the conflict. Stevens repeated, "Molly, Molly," became one of the most replayed soundbites of the week. Stephen A. Smith's direct address toward Molly Qerim made his feelings crystal clear. He believed she should have been more vocal in defending him and Shannon during the height of the Caitlin Clark controversy. What made it even more uncomfortable wasn't what he said, it was how he said it. Instead of handling it off-air or during a commercial break, he chose to air his frustration live, right in front of millions of viewers. That moment flipped the entire studio's mood. You could feel the tension shift instantly as Molly found herself cornered in a live debate she never signed up for. Stephen A. kept pressing. Shannon nodded in agreement beside him, and suddenly it felt like a 2-on-1 showdown. Molly, the moderator, was now the one being moderated. Her body language said everything. Tight shoulders, controlled breathing, the kind of frozen smile that hides irritation under pressure. She tried to keep her composure, nodding as Stephen spoke, but it was obvious she felt blindsided. What was supposed to be a conversation about basketball had turned into a public critique of her professionalism. Live on ESPN, fans instantly picked up on the imbalance. On X, posts poured in saying things like, "That was unfair," Stephen A. and Shannon double-teamed her, and "Molly handled that like a pro." The clip spread fast, sparking discussions about how often Molly ends up being the one caught in the crossfire between fiery male personalities. It wasn't just about Caitlin Clark anymore. It was about respect, power, and the pressure that comes with being the only woman holding her ground on First Take. But just when it seemed like things might calm down for her, another on-air moment reminded everyone how even the smallest actions from Molly could trigger massive reactions online. This time, it wasn't about her opinions or her moderation. It was about something as innocent as grabbing a snack. On June 25th, 2024, First Take was running through another marathon of topics: NBA trades, NFL rumors, and everything in between. The show was long, the energy high, and somewhere mid-broadcast, Molly reached for a quick bite to eat while the conversation rolled on. It was a harmless human moment, something anyone would do during a long, live taping. But Stephen A. noticed and turned it into a topic. What began as light banter quickly shifted into something that felt uncomfortably pointed. What started as lighthearted teasing quickly crossed into uncomfortable territory. During that June 25th broadcast, Molly Qerim found herself at the center of unexpected on-air attention, this time over something as harmless as snacking. Stephen A. Smith and the other panelists began making observations about her eating habits on set, what she was eating, how often, and how much. On the surface, it might have seemed like casual workplace humor, but there was an undertone that made viewers shift in their seats. The focus wasn't on sports anymore, it was on her, and that made all the difference. As the teasing continued, one particular line stood out. "You've been eating enough," one of the co-hosts quipped, followed immediately by a quick defensive clarification. "I'm not talking about how you look. You look great." That last part said it all. It showed that even the person making the joke realized in real time that they were walking on dangerous ground. But instead of stopping there, the commentary kept going. Mentions of cake, jokes about what's next, and constant observations about her food choices created an uncomfortable dynamic, one that went far beyond friendly banter. It wasn't malicious, but it lingered just long enough to feel wrong. Molly tried her best to handle it with grace. She smiled, laughed lightly, and attempted to steer the conversation back toward the show. But her body language told the real story. That forced smile, the glance off camera, and the tightening of her posture. You could see she was uncomfortable even as she tried to keep things professional. The constant remarks like, look at you, turned the moment into something deeper than a harmless joke. It created the image of a woman being scrutinized for simply existing on camera, for eating, for being visible, for being human. And the audience noticed immediately. For many viewers, especially women who've experienced similar treatment in professional settings, the clip hit way too close to home. The comments weren't just awkward, they were a reflection of a double standard that's been lingering in sports media for years. Social media erupted once the clip hit X. Posts ranged from disbelief to anger, with users writing things like, "Why are they policing her for eating on a long show?" And this is exactly what women deal with at work, being picked apart for the smallest things. Many fans pointed out the obvious. Why was this even a topic? Male hosts on sports shows eat, drink, and snack on camera all the time without a single comment. But when Molly Qerim did it, it somehow became a talking point. The whole situation felt strange, even invasive, because it took something so mundane, grabbing a bite during a long live broadcast, and twisted it into a recurring bit at her expense. Sure, maybe the intention was lighthearted teasing among coworkers, but the sustained focus and repeated remarks about her eating turned it into something that didn't feel so playful anymore. The jokes might have started with laughs, but by the end the tone had shifted, and viewers noticed. Social media made it clear that this wasn't funny to everyone, with many calling it weirdly personal and unnecessary. Still, not every on-air slip brought discomfort. Some gave fans a more innocent look at Molly's unfiltered human side. One such moment came on May 7th, 2024, delivering one of the funniest and most relatable mishaps on First Take. The topic of the day? The NBA playoffs. The biggest storylines, wildest matchups, and endless predictions. The energy was high, and the panel featured Stephen A. Smith, along with either Chris Mad Dog Russo or JJ Redick. The debate was flowing smoothly until a sudden camera shift exposed something no one expected to see. Molly's desk. And not just any desk, one absolutely covered in coffee mugs. According to fan screenshots that immediately went viral, there were at least 4 or 5 mugs in plain view. Different shapes, different sizes. Some half full, some empty, one even stacked awkwardly on top of another. The chat on X exploded instantly. How much caffeine does Molly Qerim need to survive First Take? One user joked, while another wrote, Molly's desk looks like a Starbucks exploded. Even her co-host couldn't resist jumping in. Stephen A. laughed mid-segment and said something along the lines of, Molly, what's going on here? You running a cafe over there? Her reaction was priceless. That quick look of surprise, a small laugh, and a moment of embarrassment that instantly turned into laughter from everyone on set. It was a rare glimpse of levity. No tension, no criticism, just pure unscripted chaos. Molly laughed it off and owned the moment, saying something playful back before smoothly steering the discussion back to basketball. What the camera revealed looked less like a broadcast desk and more like someone's home office after a 12-hour caffeine marathon. Coffee mugs everywhere, stacked, scattered, and definitely multiplying. It was one of those blink and you miss it moments that instantly became TV gold. Stephen A. Smith spotted it right away and couldn't resist. Mid-discussion, he stopped everything and said, Hold up, Molly. What's going on here? You got a whole coffee shop on your desk. Molly's reaction was priceless, a mix of embarrassment and good humor. She looked down at the mugs, let out a sheepish laugh, and fired back playfully. Come on, Stephen. I'm just staying hydrated. But of course, Stephen A wasn't done. He grinned and hit back with, hydrated? Molly, that's not hydration. That's a Starbucks franchise. Everyone on set cracked up. Trying to save herself, Molly subtly slid one of the mugs out of frame, which only made things funnier. The more she tried to hide it, the louder the laughter grew. In just 20 seconds, a random camera angle turned into one of First Take's funniest unscripted moments of the year. Social media went crazy. Fans flooded X with comments like, Molly's mug collection finally got exposed, and she's got enough caffeine to power ESPN for a week. The clip was replayed thousands of times and even made its way to sports blogs. Awful Announcing covered it, praising the natural chemistry between Molly and Stephen A and her ability to laugh at herself, even when the joke was at her expense. It was a refreshing moment that reminded everyone why Molly connects with audiences so well. She's sharp, professional, but never afraid to let loose when things get chaotic. And for once, the laughter wasn't at her expense. It was shared, genuine, and real. But as lighthearted as the coffee mug incident was, the next moment couldn't have been more different. Because this time, Molly didn't just get caught in a funny viral clip. She became the center of a serious broadcast mistake that went global. Fast forward to July 22nd, 2025, right in the heart of NFL training camp season. What started as a routine morning on First Take quickly spiraled into one of the most talked about blunders in ESPN history. Unlike her previous on-air slip-ups, this wasn't about something she did, it was about something she believed. In a fast-moving sports media world dominated by social media updates, Molly, like many journalists, got caught in the crossfire of misinformation. A story that seemed credible online had been spreading fast, and by the time the First Take team saw it, the post had already gone viral. Without realizing it was a hoax, Molly referenced it live on air, a mistake that would explode across the internet within hours. False information spreads faster than fact-checkers can catch it, and this next moment proved that in real time. The episode in question revolved around the Dallas Cowboys, always a guaranteed ratings magnet, thanks to their massive fan base and never-ending drama about whether they're finally going to win it all. The panel that day included Stephen A. Smith, a known Cowboys antagonist, and possibly Ryan Clark, adding extra fire to the mix. Molly Qerim kicked things off confidently, introducing a segment about the Cowboys training camp and their joint practices with other teams. To make it more engaging, she set up what she believed was fresh footage. A clip showing Pittsburgh Steelers wide receiver George Pickens making an unbelievable catch during one of those joint sessions against Dallas. There was just one major problem. That wasn't George Pickens. In fact, it wasn't even from the current training camp. The clip was 2 years old, showing Dallas Cowboys' own receiver, Brandon Cooks. Somehow, a cleverly edited viral post had tricked ESPN's production team, and the mix-up made it all the way to live television before anyone realized what happened. The error exploded instantly online. Sharp-eyed fans on X caught the mistake within minutes, posting side-by-side comparisons and captions like, "That's literally Brandon Cooks, not George Pickens," and ESPN just got trolled by a fake highlight reel. The comments came in fast, some laughing, others criticizing how quickly sports shows rush to air viral clips without checking sources first. To her credit, Molly handled it like a pro. Near the end of the broadcast, she addressed the mix-up head-on with a calm, direct apology. Earlier, we showed video that we identified as George Pickens at Cowboys training camp. It was not George, so we apologize for that mistake. Her delivery was clear, composed, and professional. No excuses, no drama, just accountability. But that didn't stop the story from spreading everywhere. Outlets like Sports Illustrated and Bro Bible covered the blunder extensively, describing it as a textbook example of how fast misinformation can slip through even at major networks. They noted that while the error was minor in the grand scheme, it highlighted a growing issue: the constant pressure to produce content quickly, even at the risk of accuracy. In an era where speed often beats truth, even the best can get caught off guard. For First Take, it was a humbling reminder that in modern sports media, one viral post can turn into a headline in seconds. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to like, subscribe, share, and drop a comment below. And keep the adventure going by clicking one of the suggested videos on your screen right now. See you on the next one.